All right, let's dive in. Today we're tackling some sensitive topics, exploring dissatisfaction with life and suicide.
Heavy stuff, yeah.
Definitely. And our guide for this deep dive is Alan Kardec's The Spirits book, specifically questions 943 to 957.
Oh, yeah, that's where Kardec directly questions the spirits, through mediums, about those feelings of dissatisfaction and thoughts of suicide.
Right, like getting insights straight from the spirit world.
For listeners who haven't encountered the spirits book, Kardec posed these questions and meticulously recorded the spirits' answers given through mediums.
So, to start off, Kardec asks, where does this dissatisfaction with life, the kind that grips some people for no apparent reason, come from? What do the spirits say about that?
Well, they pinpoint three main causes: idleness, lack of faith, and then satiety.
Satiety.
Yeah, having too much. The spirits say being satiated can actually breed boredom and make people less appreciative, which ultimately feeds dissatisfaction.
That's interesting. We usually think of dissatisfaction coming from lacking something, but they're saying an excess can have the same effect.
Exactly. And they contrast this with folks who find purpose and meaning by using their talents for good.
So meaning and purpose are key to a fulfilling life for them.
It seems that way. They draw a clear line between a life of idleness and indulgence versus one dedicated to something bigger than oneself.
It's not about just having or not having. It's about what you do with what you have. Right?
Absolutely. And this resonates, right? Finding meaning by contributing to the world around us.
Definitely. Now, this leads us to the big question. Do people have the right to take their own lives? What did the spirits say about that?
Well, they're pretty straightforward. Suicide is never the answer.
No exceptions.
Nope. They view it as violating God's will, a transgression against natural law.
Wow. What about people suffering immensely, though? Do the spirits have any sympathy for those situations?
Oh, they do express compassion for anyone struggling, but their stance remains firm. Hardship is seen as a trial, a necessary part of our spiritual journey.
A test of our strength.
Yes, and facing those trials with patience and resignation, the spirits say, ultimately leads to spiritual growth.
So suicide offers no escape from these trials.
No, they believe it leads to even greater disappointment in the afterlife.
So no running from your problems, even on the other side.
Right. It really raises the question, what are our coping mechanisms for dealing with suffering? How do we find the strength to keep going when things are really rough?
A question worth pondering, for sure. Now, Kardec goes on to ask about those who might push someone to suicide. What do the spirits say about the responsibility of those who drive others to that point?
They're very clear. Those who push someone to suicide are guilty of a kind of murder.
Wow, that's a strong statement.
It is. But they also hold individuals accountable for their own choices.
So it's a balance between acknowledging external pressures and personal responsibility.
Right. They urge individuals to fight for their lives, to resist despair, even under immense pressure.
It's a reminder of the strength of the human spirit, our capacity to overcome even the darkest times.
Now, Kardec goes on to explore some specific motivations for suicide.
Oh, interesting. Like what?
Well, he starts with suicide committed out of shame for a wrongful act, trying to escape the consequences.
It's a dark impulse, but I can see how someone might feel that way. So what did the spirits say about that?
They don't view suicide as a way to erase the wrong. In fact, they say it adds a second wrong to the first.
It's not about escaping judgment. It's about facing it.
Exactly. It's about taking responsibility, seeking forgiveness, making amends. And they say God is the ultimate judge. True repentance and attempts at reparation while alive are what matters.
Suicide cuts off those possibilities.
Right. It's a sobering reminder that our choices have consequences in this life and the next. Kardec then asks about taking one's life to avoid bringing shame on one's family.
Trying to protect loved ones from disgrace. It's a powerful motivator. Tragic, but understandable.
Yes, and the spirits acknowledge those good intentions, but they still see it as misguided.
So even wanting to shield family from suffering doesn't justify suicide.
Right. And they offer a really interesting perspective here. They suggest that if society eliminated prejudices and abusive behaviors, there'd be far less suicide.
So it shifts the focus from individual responsibility to society's role in creating conditions that lead to despair. What kind of prejudices are they talking about?
That's open to interpretation, of course, but it definitely challenges us to think about how societal pressures, expectations, judgments contribute to those feelings of shame and hopelessness.
It's a call for more compassion, both individually and societally.
Absolutely. Now, Kardec also asks about dying for a noble cause, sacrificing oneself for the greater good.
The classic martyrdom dilemma. Is it suicide or is it selfless?
Well, the spirits actually draw a clear distinction between suicide and sacrifice, especially if the motivation is pure, selfless love.
So intention is key.
Exactly, and they caution against what they call pride-driven martyrdom, where the focus is more on self-glorification than truly helping others.
It's not just the act itself, but the reason behind it. Even with seemingly good deeds, our inner motivations matter.
Speaking of inner motivations, Kardec then gets into suicide through self-destructive habits.
The slow burn, is that still considered suicide, even if it's not a single act?
The spirits call it moral suicide. They believe if you repeatedly engage in destructive behaviors, knowing you're shortening your life, it's essentially a form of suicide.
It's about taking responsibility for our choices, even those that play out over time. Makes you think about those bad habits, huh?
Right. And they point out that these individuals have plenty of time to reflect, so they might be more culpable than those acting impulsively in despair.
That's an interesting distinction.
Yeah.
Awareness and choice play a role in how they judge those actions.
Kardec then asks about hastening an inevitable, painful death. For example, someone terminally ill choosing to end their suffering.
That's a tough one. Ethically complex.
It is. And even in those situations, the spirits advise against taking matters into one's own hands. They believe in surrendering to a higher power, accepting God's timing.
It's a message of faith and acceptance, even when things seem unbearable. But what about those who engage in reckless behaviors that lead to death unintentionally? Is that suicide to the spirits?
That's another important distinction they make. They say culpability only arises if there's a clear intention to harm oneself.
So accidents happen, and they're not necessarily viewed as suicide. Intent matters.
Right. And this focus on intention leads to a fascinating discussion of cultural practices of self-sacrifice.
Like what?
Kardec brings up women who self-immolate on their husband's death, which was, and sometimes still is, prevalent in some cultures.
What do the spirits say about that?
They see it as a product of cultural prejudice and coercion. They don't condone it, but they see it as resulting from ignorance, not true suicide in the sense of a deliberate, informed choice.
The cultural context matters. Our beliefs and actions are shaped by our societies.
Absolutely. And then Kardec asks if suicide can be a way to reunite with loved ones who've passed.
It's a romantic notion. Death is a quick path to reunion. What do the spirits say?
They say it backfires big time. Instead of reunion, it creates greater separation. They believe God doesn't reward those who choose to end their lives out of despair or lack of faith.
No shortcuts to reunion. Trying to go against the natural order actually has the opposite effect.
Exactly. Which brings us to, what are the consequences of suicide for the spirit?
What happens on the other side? Punishment. What do the spirits say?
They explain there's no one-size-fits-all punishment. Severity depends on the circumstances and the motivations, as we've been talking about.
It's not a simple equation, but any common threads?
One consistent thing is a profound sense of disappointment.
Disappointment. How so?
They suggest the spirit entering the afterlife feels they've missed opportunities for growth and learning in their earthly life, like cutting a journey short and realizing you missed all the good stuff along the way.
So, regret, unfinished business. Makes sense, considering your focus on facing our trials and finding meaning in our experiences.
Exactly. Kardec adds some of his own observations based on communicating with spirits. He says many experience a prolonged confusion after suicide.
Why?
He attributes it to the sudden severing of the spirit-body connection. Imagine being abruptly ripped from your physical form. It's jarring. It takes time to adjust.
Makes sense that such a traumatic transition would be disorienting.
And it can get worse. Kardec shares that some even experience the sensations of their body decomposing as if they were still there.
Wow, that's intense. It really drives home the consequences.
It does. And these repercussions can extend beyond one lifetime. Kardec gives examples of spirits who said they committed suicide in past lives and now face new challenges to learn greater resignation.
The consequences echo through multiple lifetimes, not just a one-time thing. It emphasizes how interconnected our experiences are across different incarnations.
Yeah, right. And that brings us to Kardec's conclusion on this. He reminds us that religion, morality, philosophy, they all condemn suicide. But he thinks Spiritism goes further.
How so?
He stresses the importance of real-world examples, like we've discussed, to show the futility and negative consequences of suicide, moving beyond abstract morals and giving practical insights into the spiritual implications.
It's about understanding the full impact of our actions in this life and the next. Wow, this has been really heavy stuff. A lot to think about.
It has. But these are questions worth grappling with, don't you think?
Absolutely. As we wrap up our exploration of dissatisfaction with life and suicide, what are the key takeaways from the spirit world? What can we, the listeners, take away from all this?
I think the biggest takeaway is the emphasis on embracing life, all of it, the joys and sorrows, as a chance for growth and learning.
Yeah, even when it's tough, the message seems to be to find the resilience to persevere, to find meaning amidst the challenges.
Right. The spirits urge us to find healthy ways to cope with suffering, not to escape through suicide.
So instead of focusing on what we lack, we should find purpose in contributing to something bigger than ourselves, through faith, service, creative expression, anything like that.
Exactly. Find that spark that makes life worth living, even in the darkest times.
And remember, we're not alone in our struggles. There's always help. Loved ones, support groups, professional help.
It's a sign of strength to reach out, to ask for help, not weakness.
Absolutely. And I think the Spirit's perspective on suicide also emphasizes compassion for ourselves and for others.
Yeah, compassion for those who are struggling, who've made different choices, who are just trying to find their way.
And compassion for ourselves when we fall short, make mistakes, when we're just having a hard time.
It's a good reminder that we're all in this together, and kindness and understanding go a long way.
This has been a truly thought-provoking deep dive. It's left me with a lot to ponder. If I could ask the spirits just one more question about suicide, it would be, what can we do as individuals and as a society to build a world where suicide isn't seen as a solution anymore?
That's a powerful question, one that I think each of us needs to sit with. How can we create more compassion, understanding, support for those who are struggling? How can we build communities where people feel valued, connected, and hopeful?
It's a challenge, for sure, but a worthy one. And maybe, just maybe, by having these conversations, by diving deep into these tough issues, we can start to create that world where fewer people feel so desperate.
I think we can. And I encourage all our listeners to keep exploring these topics, keep asking questions, keep seeking knowledge and understanding.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it's given you something to think about, maybe even inspired you to act in your own life and in your community. Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the mysteries of life.